Welcome to the Encaustic Edge with Melissa Stevens. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe or leave a comment or question. I'm Melissa Stevens, and today you're joining me for the Fab15. The Fab15 is a 15-minute exploration into a new technique, tool, method, or media that I've never used before. In today's show, called Hot Patterns, I will attempt to create various stencils using a flat iron. Let's get started. I'm Melissa Stevens, and you're joining me here today on the Fab15 on my new encaustic channel, the Encaustic Edge. Thanks so much for coming. I'm going to jump right into it. This is 15 minutes doing a demonstration using materials that I've never used before. So woohoo! Enjoy all of my fun discoveries and laugh at my mistakes, but a mistake is an opportunity to learn. So here we go. So today we're going to be working with irons and heating styluses with the iron tool on it. The video that I did just before this was a live stream, and it was all about the heating tools with the encaustic medium. The one tool that I did not cover in it is the hot iron, and there are lots of different kinds of irons out there. The kind of iron that you're looking for, this is a heat sealing iron, something similar to what you would use for quilting or those kinds of sealing projects. It does get really, really hot. There's a dial on the back here that you can see that goes all the way up. I currently have it dialed down all the way to the 1 position, which is right around 100 degrees. I am not particularly fond of this iron because it has a tendency to heat way, way hot. And I'm using it, the dial jiggles and moves. So I have to be really, really on top of things when I'm using it to make sure that it doesn't get too hot, because when you burn your encaustic medium, it smokes, and that smoke is really dangerous for you to breathe. So the other thing that you need to really look for is you can see that there are no openings or holes in the iron like you would see in a steam iron that you would use for ironing your clothes or something like that. That's really important for you to make sure that the iron is completely flat and doesn't have those holes, because it can jab your painting. The pointy tip also has a tendency to catch. This iron tends to kind of flip up a little bit on the end, and so I don't have that issue quite so much. The other one is on the heat stylus, which I have right here. There is an encaustic stylus that does not require this part, but I don't have that kind. The kind that I use is actually a wood burning tool and a lamp dimmer switch, which controls the heat. If you want more information about this, go back to The Edge, which is my other show that I do, which is the live stream, the one just before this, and it will cover all of the information around the parts and where you can get them and how they connect. If you have any questions, be sure to post them, and if we can get a dialogue going, that would be great. I love to share information, and that's what my channel is all about. So today we're going to be looking at adding stencils with the iron. So what the iron wants to do with the encaustic medium is when you apply it to the iron, it wants to push your encaustic paint down into either crevices that you've created through carving or through a stencil, is my assumption. So we're going to find out here today. So I have 3 different colors. I have an iridescent silver, cadmium red light, and a French mauve reddish. These are all RNF encaustics. So we're going to work with these 3 colors and just see what kind of different effects we get. One of the stencils that I have, this is a corner tape or something that would be used in construction, but as you can see, it has this really beautiful gridded pattern. Another stencil that I have that we're going to work with, this is just a paper doily. And then I have a stencil that I created, and this is just done on a thin piece of mylar, and hopefully we won't melt it, but that's why we're using one of my homemade ones. I also have a thicker kind of cardstock paper stencil that we're going to try. And a piece of netting that you would find wrapped around your vegetables. This was from an onion bag. I do a lot of upcycling with those things. This is plastic, so I will have to be very careful as well to make sure that my irons are set on low and maintain that temperature. And then the last thing that I have is a net, and we're going to try this one as well. And I've got two different paintings that we're going to use during this process. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with the big iron. I'm going to start with this with the tape, like I said. I'm going to cut a little piece off and lay it on the top here of this piece. So there we go. I'm going to just make sure that that is nice and secure. What you might choose to do is kind of just warm your stencil a little bit first. We can try it both ways. Let me grab my torch really quick. This is on a cool board, and it's probably about 50 or 55 degrees in my studio right now. And so we'll just go ahead and try with the iron. And the way that you want to put the paint on is you actually just take the nice solid piece of encaustic and you rub it over the surface. Now it's starting to take. Just rubbing that paint onto the surface of the iron. And I want to kind of cover the broader part of it to get more of the color on there, but I want to make sure that it's not smoking. That would mean that it's way too hot. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to quickly run it over the surface of my stencil there. Let's see what we end up with. I'm going to do a couple runs, see if I can't spread a little bit of that paint with the iron itself. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see what we get. Now, the important thing here is that I will want to take the paint off of the iron as well. And for that, we need a paper towel. And just swipe over the top like that. And in the end, I'll give it a full clean with a little bit of slick wax. Slick wax is a soy wax, and it comes in a puck just like this. It is time for the glory moment where I reveal, oh, the stencil, it's kind of sticking a little bit. Wow, that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Now let's try doing it by heating first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just warm it. I'm not going to heat it like I'm fusing it. Just getting it warm, kind of tacky. And I'm going to go ahead and lay it down again. And we're just going to see if it takes it differently. This is an experiment after all. So here I am putting the paint onto the broader part of my iron and swiping it down. Going to run it back and forth a little bit, see if I can get more of that paint off. We're just going to stop like that. We're just going to see if it makes a difference. It did come off a little easier, got a little sloppy in here. I'm going to bring it closer to the camera so you can see in detail. It kind of didn't maintain quite as much of that clarity as we got when we did it on the wax when it was cold. But the initial, it just seems just a little bit softer, the way that it lays down on surface area when I heated it first. Let's go ahead and try using the Stylus. Here's the Stylus, right? And we put the paint on in the same way that we would on the iron. And this time we're going to go ahead and use my handmade stencil. And we're just going to put it right over here. And let's go ahead and put the paint onto the Stylus. And you can see it goes on just like the other iron. And this is set really, really low, probably close to like 100 degrees or 80 degrees. And we're going to just go ahead and run it really quickly over the stencil because I don't want it to rest too long on the stencil or it'll start melting it. That's my assumption anyway. Sometimes it gets caught up on top of the tip and then you can just rub it in there like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel that back and we come out with a pretty good stencil. You can see how the iron is wanting to push the paint down through the lines of the stencil, those openings, those gapes. And you can see that it did it just right there. It needs just a little bit of cleanup, but for the most part, the areas that I did hit, it did work. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think you should be too. So let's go ahead and try the paper doily. And I'm going to rub it onto my iron. Ooh, isn't that a beautiful color? It looks like it likes the paper a little more than it likes those openings. So let's try this a little bit. Okay, moving it in circles. Seems to be spreading that paint around a little better. Because the iron is maintaining heat, it's actually fusing the paint directly into the surface. So I do not need to fuse it after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and warm this one more time before I pull it off. Oops. This is a two-handed job. But I don't want my surface to cool too much before I pull it off, or I know that paper is going to rip. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring my iron back for this section and heat it up again. And then I'm going to, it's still sticking. Not a super positive one. This is probably going into the blooper file. All right, so let's see if we can save it. Okay, there we go. There we go. It's not catching fire, so that's good. I don't know that I am particularly fond of maybe doing the paper stencil on there. The next stencil we're going to use, we didn't have a lot of luck with the doily, but that was a really thin paper. Let's go ahead and try this thicker paper one. So again, just rubbing that paint in there. Okay, in this case, I'm almost doing like a scraping motion, you know, like when you are cutting into a pan of brownies and you scrape the knife against the side. So I'm trying to emulate that, that kind of motion. It doesn't seem to be working very well. Again, maybe this tool is just too small. Let's go ahead and bring out the big mama. Go ahead and do a swipe with this. Oh, that seemed a little better. Let's do some more. Again, I do not use the iron for much other than to apply microcrystalline wax to the surface of my tables. Some people, they solely paint with the iron. Pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and lift my stencil and see what kind of a result I got. That looks pretty good. Pretty darn clean. I think my tool, my stylus, was just too small to take on such a large surface area. But once I got that iron in there, that's beautiful. I really, really like that. That I really like. Really, really beautiful. And again, because I used a heating tool to push it into this last surface, I do not need to fuse it after the fact. Pretty cool. So the last stencil that I'm going to use is this piece of netting. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use it on this big one. I think just based on what we're doing, we're going to have pretty good luck with this. And I know now that because the surface area is so large on this painting that I will need to use my large iron. I'm going to go ahead and apply that paint to my iron. I'm going to run it over. I'm using that scraping motion, thinking about brownies again, getting a little hungry. There's a buildup of my paint right here, so I'm going to see if I can smooth that out a little bit. Again, I'm going to kind of work over this to smooth it out. And all right, well that is interesting. So I did end up getting those ridges in there from the rope. Let me find a tilt. There you go. You can see them really well now. They're almost like little river channels running through the painting. So that was really fun. So today you've joined me here for the Fab15, and I hope that you feel like it's 15 minutes of well-used time. I sure do. If you will, hit the subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up or a like. Leave me a comment or a question if you have one, and I would love to talk with you more about encaustic painting. Hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.